Good morning, students. So today we are going to see the proximate and ultimate analysis. So before going to the proximate and ultimate analysis, we know that we are doing different conversion technologies for getting more efficient result from a biomass. So one of that conversion technologies including the thermochemical conversion process. Thermochemical conversion process including the normal combustion process that we are doing in our home, and then gasification process, pyrolysis process, etc. That may include some involvement of thermal energy. So for performing all those things for combustion, we need a combustion chamber or we need a biomass stove. And for gasification process, we require a gasifier. And for pyrolysis process, we require a proper incinerator. So all those things we have to design, we have to construct a proper design of proper structure or thermochemical conversion structures. And for proper operation and for proper design and proper getting maximum efficiency, the things that we have to know is that we must know about the material, the raw material or feed material. So each biomass is different from any another biomass. Coconut husk is different than cow dung. Then any other plant waste material is different from coir pith. So all these things are varying, very large variations among the cells. So if you are designing a gasifier unit for a coconut husk, it won't be suitable for using in normal wood or for cow dung. So the characteristics of each feed materials that we selected as a selected for the particular process should be known thoroughly. So for knowing that one, we go for the proximate and ultimate analysis. So, the design, operation, efficiency of thermochemical conversion systems largely depend upon the characteristic properties that may include moisture content, elementary composition, bulk density, particle size, porosity, etc. So, for that, we have to do the proximate and ultimate analysis to knowing all these factors. Whereas the proximate analysis is performed to getting some properties including the bulk density, moisture content, total solid, ash content, volatile solids, and calorific value for its suitability during the biogas production. So these all things are used to find out in the proximate analysis. So let's see one by one what is including in the proximate analysis is that. First one is the determination of bulk density. Bulk density is the simple, it's nothing but mass by volume or weight by volume. So we can calculate the bulk density by taking some amount of material in a container of non-volume. Then we can weigh the container plus the sample and divided by the volume it contains. So the bulk density is equal to Ws minus Wc divided by Vs. Ws is the weight of the sample or mass of the sample plus the container, and Wc is the, you have to minus the weight of the container, so Wc is the mass of the container divided by volume of the sample or volume which is occupied by the sample in the container. Next is the moisture content. Moisture content is amount of moisture which is present divided by the total weight. So that is the moisture content. So moisture content can be determined by taking 2 grams of sample and it is pre-weighed and it transferred into a drying dish. Then we are allowed to dry in an oven for 105 degrees Celsius at least for 5 hours. After 5 hours, we can take the sample out from the dryer or oven. Then we can place it in the desiccator for cooling it to the normal temperature. Then after cooling, we can again reweight it. We'll get the weight after drying. So we can calculate the moisture content by weight before drying minus the weight after drying divided by the initial weight or weight before drying. So we have to minus the weight of the container or the drying dish from the set. So W2 minus W3 divided by W2 minus W1 into 100 since it is expressed in percentages. Then W1 is the weight of the empty crucible. Nothing is there. W2 is the weight of the crucible plus the weight of the sample. W3 is the weight of the crucible plus weight of the sample after drying. W2 is before drying and W3 is after drying. So this is how we are calculating the moisture content. Next is total solid or dry solid. Dry solid is the part which is left there after removal of the moisture. is called a dry solid or total solid. So 100 minus percentage of moisture content will get the total solid. Next is ash content. The ash content is the incombustible component of or part of the biomass material or any material. So ash content can be calculated by the material which is left after the complete burning is called ash content. So we can take a 2 gram of sample which can be placed in a crucible, and we can incinerate it for almost 760 degree until the complete burning is taking place in a muffled furnace. Then after complete burning, we can place it in desiccator for cooling. After cooling, we can calculate the sorry, after cooling we can calculate the ash content by similar to that of the moisture content, that is W3 minus W1 divided by W2 minus W1. But your W1 is the weight of the crucible alone, W2 is the weight of the crucible plus the sample before it is burned or incinerated. Then W3 is the weight of the crucible plus sample weight after the incineration process, and it is also expressed in percentage, hence it multiplied by 100. Next is volatile solids. Volatile solids is the solid which is left just when the material start to burning, whatever is initially removed from the material other than the moisture is called the volatile solids. Hence it can be calculated from 100 minus percentage of the moisture content plus ash content. Ash content is the incombustible material. So that is volatile solids. Then fixed carbon is there. After removing the ash content, after removing the volatile matter, after removing the moisture, what is there in that particular biomass is called fixed carbon. So 100 minus percentage of ash plus percentage of volatile matter plus percentage of the moisture content. Next is carbon nitrogen ratio. As the name indicates, the percentage of carbon divided by the percentage of the nitrogen. Next is ultimate analysis. Ultimate analysis is used to find the elementary composition of a material, like how much amount of carbon is present, how much amount of hydrogen is present, nitrogen is present. So all those things can be calculated using the ultimate analysis. So important factor in is called first one is the hydrogen content. Hydrogen content can be calculated by burning the material and allowing the exhaust to pass to copper sulfate, anhydrous copper sulfate. So first what we have to do is that we can take a weighed sample, that is take a 2 gram of weighed samples, and we are burning it. Then the exhaust, after the burning whatever exhaust is emitted, that is allowed to pass through a 2 gram of anhydrous copper sulfate. 2 gram of anhydrous copper sulfate. Then as the exhaust is passing through the copper sulfate will turn from the white color to the blue color. That indicates something is absorbed in the copper sulfate solution, right? So after the burning, we can again burn in the anhydrous copper sulfate, that will become the hydrous copper sulfate. Because when a sample is burned, especially if the sample is a hydrocarbon, it is burned, the material which is evolved may be carbon dioxide and water. So that water which is present is called a we can calculate the hydrogen. So that hydrogen will be absorbed by the anhydrous copper sulfate and will become hydrous copper sulfate. That is CuSO4 into 5 H2O. From this we can calculate the value of hydrogen, how much hydrogen is present, like weight of the water which is absorbed in the copper sulfate into molar mass of the hydrogen divided by weight of sample into hydrogen. This is also expressed in the percentage. Then copper sulfate initial weight we know before the burning, and after burning also we can calculate, from which we can calculate how much amount of water is absorbed in that. Next is nitrogen content. Nitrogen content is calculated by using the Geldahl's or determined by the Geldahl a catalyst experiment. First, we have to take a 2 gram of sample in a digestion flask, and then we can introduce the Geldahl catalyst into the sample. After Geldahl catalyst, we can add almost 20 ml of concentrated acid and into the sample, and we can fix that to a digester until complete digestion processes happen. We will get a clear solution. Then that clear solution was taken into a volumetric flask. We will transfer that into a volumetric flask, and we will make it into 100 ml, or in standard bar we will make it into 100 ml by using the distilled water. So we'll take 2 gram of sample, and then to that sample we will add the Geldahl catalyst and 20 ml of concentrated acid. Then we will allow them to digest in a digester. So only 20 ml will be there, or 20, 21, 22, maximum 22 ml will be there. So that ml we will then transfer into a conical flask or a standard flask to, and we will add water to that to make it into 100 ml. Okay, then after that 10 ml of this digested was taken. Then we will made it into alkaline solution by adding 20 ml of 20% NaOH and distilled water. So 10 ml of the digester was made alkaline with 20 ml of 20% NaOH and distilled water. So that was the sample titrate. Then there will be a blank solution. Blank solution means 20 ml of 4% boric acid was pipetted into the conical flask, and 5 drops of methyl red is an indicator will added to the solution, and then it is diluted with 75 ml of distilled water. Then the filtrate is titrated against the hydrochloric acid of normality 0.1. 0.1 normality hydrochloric acid is used as a titrate. Then it will titrated against the that HCl of normality 0.1. Then the percentage of nitrogen can be calculated using the equation titer minus the blank solution into NF, that is the nitrogen factor, and DF is the diluted factor, into 100% divided by S. Nitrogen factor is 14 by 1000, DF is 100 into 100% divided by S is the sample weight of the sample. Next is the crude protein. Protein is nothing but the nitrogen derivative, right? So the crude protein can be calculated by multiplying the nitrogen percentage into a factor which is called 6.25, is called a Geldal factor. So the whatever percentage of nitrogen that we got in our Geldal experiment, that percentage of nitrogen is multiplied by the Geldal factor of 6.25 to get the protein. So that is about the ultimate analysis and approximate analysis. Thank you.